Welcome to Our City Matters. My name is Tashreeq. Truebody once again. We're on your screens this evening as we deal with issues that affect our city. One of them is transport. It's a vital resource behind our economy and ensuring that our economy does in fact continue and it grows. And for us to have this discussion this evening about the state of our transport in the Western Cape and more so in the city of Cape Town, I am joined by the MEC for Transport in the Western Cape, MEC Donald Grant. Thank you so much, MEC, for your time. Also with us in studio this evening is Andile Ntetkena. He is the Deputy Chair of COSATU here in the Western Cape, as well as Zingasani Nkanjena. He's the chairman rather of Public Transport Voice. Perhaps if we could start off with you, MEC, how would you describe the state of our transport? Do we have a reliable one that is ensuring the economy continues to at least be serviced?
Good morning to you and the fellow panelists and your listeners. Firstly, let me just say I'm the Provincial Transport and Public Works Minister, so obviously operational matters are run by the city, but I'll share obviously my thoughts with you. Our public transport system certainly I believe is undercapacitated. At the moment, if I look at the rail system, we have some 85 functional train sets operational at the moment. PRASA, with their regeneration plans and capital expansion plans, are scheduled to import 70 train sets into the country. I understand from the PRASA executives that 14 of those train sets will be delivered to the Western Cape within the MTEF, which is the next 3 years. But if you look at the actual demand, if you add 14, we would be at a level of 99 train sets. And those, we need actually 120 train sets to service the needs of the rail commuter population. Rail commuters are the biggest commuters, and we have about 627,000 people who commute daily during weekdays by rail. So they're by far the biggest market share. And if you look at that in a national perspective, we have some 32% market share of all rail commuter traffic in the country, which is much higher than our plus minus 10%. So we're big there. Buses, my department, through a national PTOG grant, subsidizes the Golden Arrow bus system. They convey about 288,000 passengers on a daily basis. And then the balance of the public transport sector is made up by minibus taxis. And we've got some 7,000 plus minus licensed, registered minibus taxis operating on the various routes. Obviously, that from a national national perspective is complemented by what the city is doing. And the city is rolling out an integrated public transport network system, and that is done in consultation with the province and some neighboring municipalities. At the moment, we've got a trial on with the Drakensberg municipality, and we're talking to Stellenbosch as well, because one needs to look at public transport holistically.
But do you believe that we have a reliable system?
We're doing our best, but if you look at Metro Rail, they have significant challenges. It's not only a shortage of reliable train sets, but they're also dealing with a backlog in terms of maintenance, and they need further capital investment, which is promised by the PRASA recapitalization project. But those are matters in which I purely have oversight. I'm not in charge of those budgets. Those are run by national government and PRASA.
Is that an indication that you would do things differently?
No, look, we have to work holistically as government, all three spheres of government working together. But certainly I would want greater capacitation and modernization of the rail system, because we are dealing largely with technology which is in the 50s instead of being in the 21st century with new technology. But that will require significant investment over time, and I think PRASA is speaking about their programs about 140 billion over the foreseeable future that they've earmarked for upgrading.
Right.
And obviously we look forward to that.
I want to go to COSATU. Is COSATU satisfied with the state of our transport, our infrastructure, our networking here in the province?
Thanks very much. Good morning, everybody. COSATU is not satisfied with the state of the transport, in particular in the province. Hence, COSATU happened to file Section 77. It's because we are really not satisfied with the state of the transport in the province. From metro rail and move to the city. When I'm talking about city, I'm talking about the new buses, my city bus. We are really not happy with the state of the transport. The transport is not safe and reliable for poor and workers in particular in the Western Cape.
For the sake of this interview, who takes responsibility for that? Because the MEC says that he only has oversight over some of these things.
We as COSATU, we believe that when we come to the buses in particular, the city has to take responsibility on that. We're busy at the NETLEC dealing with Section 77. We are engaging with all stakeholders, PRASA and Metro Rail as well. Yes.
All right. Zingisani, if you were to do an assessment of our public transport, what would that be?
Sorry?
If you were to do an assessment on our public transport, what would that be?
Firstly, if we look at the on the infrastructure, for example, particularly rail transport, is not reliable, is not in a good standard. And I fully agree with the MEC when they say that the oversight has been done by the national government. It's one of the things that as an organization we've gone to law before, that national government must give provinces power to oversight a rail transport. And we're saying that issues of safety and security, because particular women, when it comes to in a rail transport, women are much more vulnerable when it comes to issues of safety and security. Inside the train station, inside trains, and we're saying that the issue of not having enough security personnel in trains, and that's a problem. And secondly, I know City of Cape Town plus with the provincial government, they're going around and saying that my City Pass project is a good project, is a good program that will solve some of the problems that we have. But if you look at my city, how it's being enrolled, that is a problem first. How could you take this kind of a project and enroll where it's not needed the most? But areas such as Khayelitsha, Mitchells Plain, Bondeville are being sidelined, and even now City of Cape Town and provincial government, they are busy now enrolling out this project in these areas that were supposed to be enrolled first. But they are not accelerating in terms of moving fast, in terms of making sure that the My City Pass project is being accessible to our people. Because we believe that if My City Pass were accessible to our people and very much visible to our people, some of the problems that we find ourselves sitting with in a rail transport, those problems can be solved, such as overcrowded of trains, passengers hanging outside carriages, and thirdly, we say that if a public transport can be affordable, we believe that most people they will take and they will manage and they will afford to use a public transport.
One of the things I want to pick up from that is that you say that the My City Bus is not accessible, and MEC, understand that you are, of course, provincial government and that My City directly falls under the city of Cape Town. But this has been a complaint time immemorial. When one takes a look at the launch of the My City Bus service, it wasn't necessarily in Khayelitsha, in Manenberg, where it is most needed.
Absolutely, but I can't talk about the design or the implementation. All I know is that they are busy rolling it out to those key areas, and that it's also going to go through a phase 2. I only know that because I happen to be in the standing committee when Brett Heron has been answering those questions of the standing committee. But I must concur with my fellow panelists. I'm not happy about the quality or the safety either. They are absolutely right. The last time I caught a train into town from Tashreeq, Stasi, we were actually there with Richard Walker and his people, and he had employed in his own budget of Metro Rail a number of security guards, and we were firstly looking for fare evasions on the trains, we were looking for drugs, and we were looking for dangerous weapons. And I can assure you we found a lot of those on the trains from Tashreeq Station, which is coming through the southeast corridor, through Philippi, from both Mitchell's Plain and Khayelitsha. So there needs to be better capacity and there needs to be better management. But if you look also at the porous nature of our stations, there is need for a massive capital injection to improve the facilities for the passengers at those stations and to ensure that there are not fare evasions. But if you look at the subsidy and the pricing of public transport, I think we need to do some benchmarking, because rail is fairly heavily subsidized, because I'm not responsible for those rail budgets, but I know, for example, Metro Rail, out of their total capital and operational cost, recovers some 45% through fare revenue. So it means 55% of that is subsidized. If you look at the GAB's bus contract, which is a project which we administer on behalf of national government, because through that public transport grant, the national government divvies up its budget into buses in the various provinces. That budget's about 788 million, and I know that it is not sufficient to finance those operations, and that GABS of late has had to have a look at a few routes which are perhaps marginal. So the introduction of the My City bus service is seen as a bridge until such time, as far as I believe, that there's a much more efficient, effective and safe rail transport network. Because
But this is the problem, because My City, as you say, it's supposed to be safe, efficient, but My City doesn't cater to the people that want safe and efficient. My City is not in Khayelitsha, is not in Manenberg.
as far as I know, the My City bus service is extending to Khayelitsha.
But it's not in the first phase. That is where it was
Yes.
needed.
The argument is this.
Look,
We-
operational matters.
Okay,
Can I just say operational matters? I mean, I wasn't given an agenda. I didn't know what the topic of the debate was. And I didn't realize we were going to be only dealing with city matters. Otherwise, it would have been best to have Brett Heron sitting here with me.
No, I'm
to
trying
answer
to
these
have an
questions.
holistic conversation, because
Yes.
you, as you say, you have oversight, but you also have a lot to say with regards to rail. So as oversight with regards to the My City bus service, which is a big issue for people in Cape Town, I want to know if you are satisfied based on the fact that there is this call for safe, for reliable. Why has the My City bus service, based on just your opinion in oversight, why has the My City bus service not catered to those people?
Look, I cannot speak to that because I'm not intimately involved with the planning or the operations. If you ask me about the George Integrated Public Transport Network, I can inform you fully, for example. But I can't pass a comment on something that I have no knowledge of, other than that the city itself is basically developing an integrated public transport network, of which My City buses, Trail, taxis and the bigger buses are all one part. And so there is a plan to integrate people. And as far as I know, with My City buses, the idea is to access those outer areas, including areas as far as Atlantis and further afield in future.
Zingisani, you wanted to jump in, but I'll get to you just now, Ndile. You wanted to jump in?
It's the same thing if you can go to Golden Arrow, for example. In how Golden Arrow is being operative in some areas, especially the poor and marginalized areas. And when you go to them and ask them why, for example, you'll find one bus after an hour that operate between town, between CPD and for example, in Mitchell's Plain. And they will tell you that the subsidy that we get, from the provincial government is not enough for us to make sure that our buses are running time and again. That's why sometimes we do find, and we sit with issues of bus delays. because of the money that they get from the government. And thirdly, when here we know that 60% of commuters nationally that use a rail transport, they are coming from the Western Cape. And we believe that if there was a working relations between, I know that there is a forum where Metro Rail, Western Cape, and the provincial government where they sit and change ideas and change problems. But the problems that, some of the problems that we don't need, for example, the national government. For example, the issue of safety and security. We don't need a national. I'm not saying that the national minister of police is doing it, but sometimes we don't. There are issues where we don't need a national government to intervene, because a provincial government, they were supposed to have a forum where a Ministry of Community Safety, a Ministry of Public Transport, Public Works and Transport can sit down and say, we know that issues of safety and security is a critical issue, and can we deploy more police to assist security guards? Because one of the things that we're saying that security guards that are in stations are not well trained enough in terms of dealing with crime activities that occurs inside trains itself and inside train stations. So if we can have like a capacity of South African police service inside, we believe that we can change that. And second and lastly, on this issue of safety, if we look at, for example, if you take a train from between Khayelitsha and town, there's a carriage, and you don't need to be to go and join intelligence to know that there's a carriage that is being commuters themselves. And I believe that the province knows about that where commuters, they cater, they put that carriage aside for them to smoke. And we've been raising this kind of issues. And security guards, they're saying that we cannot deal with those kind of things. But if police can come on the phone and work together.
And really, this is clearly a bigger problem than just provincial oversight, than just City of Cape Town. That national government needs to come to the table and at least, what Zingisani says, give operational matters over to a more micro level form of governance.
It is a bigger problem, as I agree with Zingisa next to me. Firstly, the question of safety in trains, it is problematic. Hence we said that the Metro Rail must reinstate the police that previously were in the trains. Apart from the stations, on the rail line, when the train is moving from one station to another, there should be police in the train. That's a safety that we are calling for. Apart from the delay of the trains that we are seeing, the MEC as well talked to that. That is another challenge. The overcrowded that we've seen in the train is a challenge that we are raising. The train are running, we're told that one train is 12 minutes in between. Yes, that creates a problem. Fortunately, sitting here, I'm residing in Khayelitsha. I'm one of those who are traveling with the train most of the time. The train will take 30 minutes before arriving at a station. 30 minutes between the train, from 15 to 30 minutes. When the second train arrives in the station, there's already overcrowded in the station. That is why we are saying the introduction of My City Pass was going to overload that crowd. But the problem that we're having with the city of Cape Town is that the introduction of My City Pass were done incorrectly so.
Yeah.
By starting in areas where the community of those areas does not necessarily need those buses, because there are 2-3 cars in parking in their yard. You go to your Manningberg, you go to your Misha's Plain, you go to your Khayelitsha, where people who are residing there, it's a poor people who does not have even a single car in their yard, who rely on a public transport.
All right, I want to then, maybe based on, let's stay with buses, but let's leave My City for now. Let's deal with Metro Rail, MEC. How much control do you have, or at least influence with regards to Metro Rail? Because if one were to consider Metro Rail as a mode of transport in those existing routes, why is Metro Rail not able to effect this particular service?
I'm delighted you've raised tangible issues on safety, because we were approached by Metro Rail and we took statistics. I took it through the JOCS, which is Minister Plato, and we had meetings with the senior leadership of SAPS. The acting provincial commissioner was there together with General Veery and others, also state security advisors were, and we put the statistics on the table. And actually what happened was that the one general got rather upset with the general manager of Metro Rail for taking these statistics into this forum, because he said it was a national issue and therefore Metro Rail had to report through the railway police, which is part of SAPS. Now, the reason Richard Walker came to me, the general manager, was because nothing was happening through those structures. And I was told that the provincial government had no right to get involved, that this was a national issue. And I had to disagree with the senior leadership in SAPS in that meeting. Because if you look in Schedule 4 of the Constitution, public transport, the provincial government has oversight. So I carry the responsibility. And therefore, if I have to hold SAPS to account, then I must ask SAPS to please assist Metro Rail in dealing with the crime on our trains. But the problem is, the real problem is that SAPS is completely understaffed and they don't have enough capacity to man their police stations, let alone our trains. So this is a matter which I'm delighted that Cosatu is taking up, because I also have the interests, I have to have the interests of our commuters and their safety at heart. And if you look at the statistics, we are meant to be creating a safe, reliable rail transport in order to induce people to move off private transport into trains or buses as an alternative because of the congestion on our roads. And actually, if you have a look at our road network, particularly the N1 and the N2 in the mornings, it's absolutely choked. The entry in on the N7 is also choked. So the bottom line is we have to fix public transport. And that means an integrated approach with more capacity for rail. And I agree with the panelists that that is where the effort needs to be put.
Okay, we're going to have to start rounding up. If I could go to you, Zingisani, just in your concluding remarks, going forward, how do you believe we should be dealing with this matter?
Firstly, I believe that if a national government can give the oversight powers to each province, and I think we can. And secondly, I would like to ask Cosatu, I know we didn't talk about this, but I would like to ask them their position in terms of possibility of having road tolls in the Western Cape, because we believe that if Senran continue with the possibility of having road tolls in the Western Cape, is going to hinder the poor and marginalized communities, because if you look at the N1 into corridor. But lastly, and we like that if a provincial government can campaign for them to have power, and we like that because one of the things that we like to look at is who's regulate for price hikes in a rail transport, because we believe that the affordability of public transport, particularly rail transport, that can emancipate our poor and marginalized.
Okay, Andile, concluding remarks from your side.
Firstly, as we raise the issue of the trains, we also believe that the provincial government of the Western Cape has a responsibility to make sure that the safety and reliable transport, it is there for the poor.
Right.
That is why we constantly raising the issue of the My City Bus. If the MEC is so concerned of the safety and reliable transport, we are still firm and saying those buses that are running between Blouberg and also are running to Millanton, those buses must go to those areas of Khayelitsha, your Miningburg, your Mitchells Plain, etc., etc. Also, we are calling for this safety in trains. That's how we think. And the additional trains, we believe that they must be there. And we even said that there should be an extension of the platforms in stations where they can then add more carriage than to have 12 coaches. Then they can have up to 15 coaches in order to offload the overcrowding in trains.
We're going to have to round up, so I want to go to MEC last. In your capacity as having the ability to have oversight and keeping stakeholders to account, based on what he says, reliable, affordable, will you ask the City of Cape Town to fast-track stage 2 of the My City bus service?
I certainly can request. There's no problem with that. But the solution, I believe, is the assignment of all public transport functions down to the metro so it can be coordinated and that there can be single fare pricing, and therefore the city would then be able to subsidize it. At the moment, you've got two entities. You've got Metro Rail on the one side, you've got GABS buses on the other, and then you've got the My City buses, and then you've got the taxis independently as well. So the only solution is to have a holistic solution for those to work together. The City of Cape Town has applied to the National Minister for the assignment of the transport function down to the metro. When I met with Minister Peters, I had the same request. So we are waiting for the deliberations, because City of Cape Town is an independent sphere of government. They are applying directly to the National Minister for that assignment of transport functions, and then it can be managed under one roof, so to speak. And I think that would alleviate a lot of the planning and improve, for what me is the most important, is the experience of our commuters within the Cape Town Metro.
Right, that the MEC for Public Works and Transport, MEC Donald Grant. And that concludes our discussion for this evening. We also had Zingisani from the Public Transport Voice in studio with us this evening, as well as Andile Nkakena. He is the Deputy Chair of COSATU in the Western Cape. I trust that you found the discussion certainly interesting and something that we'll take forward at another stage. Until we speak again, have a good night.